Dear Chosen One, if you're watching this video right now, know that this is not a coincidence. You weren't led here by chance. It is God who has brought you to this very moment, to this message, because an urgent prophecy is about to unfold, and it is meant for you. Receive this energy and divine prophecy by liking and subscribing to the channel. And don't forget to write your heartfelt prayers or wishes to God in the comment section below. The Spirit of the Lord is moving, and He has placed you at the threshold of something extraordinary. You've been walking for so long, trusting even when you couldn't see the road ahead. There were moments you thought your journey had stalled, moments you questioned if the promise God whispered to your heart so long ago would ever come to pass. Yet, here you are, still standing, still believing, and that alone is a testimony of faith. For years, the enemy tried to convince you that the silence meant abandonment, that the closed doors meant God had forgotten you. But child of God, Heaven never forgot your name. Even in the quiet, even in the waiting, your Father was building the very bridge you would one day walk across. What you thought was delay was actually divine preparation. Every prayer you've spoken in tears, every step you've taken in obedience, has been building toward this moment. And now, you can almost feel it, a shift in the atmosphere, a stirring deep in your spirit. You may not have all the details, but something inside you knows. The season is changing. You are closer than you've ever been. What was once out of reach is now within sight. The wilderness is ending, and you are stepping toward a land that flows with the promises of God. The Lord wants you to understand something critical right now. When you stand on the edge of His promise, there will always be two voices speaking to you. One is the voice of faith, reminding you of everything God has done and every miracle He has worked in your life. The other is the voice of fear, whispering that you're not ready, that it's too risky, that you could lose everything if you take the next step. Faith will tell you that the Red Sea will part. Fear will tell you you'll drown. Faith will tell you the walls of Jericho will fall. Fear will tell you the walls will crush you. But the Spirit of the Lord says today, you have walked with me long enough to know my voice. Trust me now, you are being positioned for a moment that will require courage. The promise God is about to fulfill in your life is not a small shift. It is a divine unveiling. You will see prayers answered in ways that will silence the doubts of even your greatest critics. You will witness God move in such power that you will know without question, this was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. But remember this, the final stretch before the promise is often the hardest. In the days ahead, you might feel increased resistance. The enemy will try to throw distractions, offenses, and even fear into your path to make you turn back. Don't take the bait. The resistance is not a sign you're off track. It's proof you're standing right where you need to be. There is a specific reason God has kept you hidden until now. He has been protecting you from premature exposure. Some blessings, if released too early, can crush rather than elevate. God needed to strengthen your spirit, sharpen your discernment, and anchor your identity so deeply in Him that no blessing could pull you away from His presence. And now, your preparation is meeting your appointed time. Heaven has already released the order. The promise is on its way. Your role is to remain steadfast, to keep your heart pure, and to keep your ears tuned to the shepherd's voice. I see someone right now who has been wrestling with the question, Lord, how much longer? And the Lord is answering, only a little while more. You have already crossed through the fire and the flood. What remains is not a test of strength, but a test of trust. Lift your head, beloved. You're not on the edge of a cliff, you're on the edge of a breakthrough. And soon, The very ground you're standing on will shift beneath your feet as God ushers you into the place He has prepared for you since before you were born. When you are this close to what God has promised, your perspective becomes a spiritual weapon. The enemy knows he cannot stop God's plan, so he will try to distort how you see it. He will magnify obstacles, highlight your weaknesses, and make the road ahead seem impossible. But remember, giants only look bigger when you forget the size of your God. In the days ahead, you must guard your vision. Do not focus on the waves. Focus on the one who walks on water. Do not count the walls. Count the promises. What you magnify in your heart will determine the strength of your faith. If you magnify the problem, fear will grow. If you magnify God, courage will rise. There's something powerful about being on the edge. It means you have traveled far enough to see the next horizon, but you are still close enough to remember the wilderness you came through. This is where gratitude becomes a shield. When you remember the times God made a way where there was no way, it strengthens your confidence that He will do it again. Some of you right now are about to step into rooms you didn't even know you would be invited into. You will meet people who were divinely assigned to help you carry out the vision God placed in your heart. These connections are not accidental, they are orchestrated. But with new opportunities comes the need for greater discernment. Not everyone who smiles at you is sent by God, and not every open door is a door from heaven. This is why your prayer life in this season is more important than ever. You cannot afford to move by impulse. You must move by instruction. Before you take a step, ask the Lord, "Is this from you?" Sometimes the enemy will try to give you a counterfeit promise right before the real one arrives, hoping you'll settle for less than God's best. Be patient. The blessing God has prepared is worth the wait. There will also be moments in the coming season where your faith will be challenged by silence. You may pray and feel like the heavens are quiet, but silence is not absence, it is strategy. God sometimes hides His next move so the enemy cannot anticipate it. In those moments, your trust becomes your greatest offering. You choose to believe that even when you can't hear Him, He is still guiding you. And hear this, you are not stepping into a promise just for your own blessing. You are stepping into it because there are others tied to your obedience. Your breakthrough will become a testimony that unlocks faith in the hearts of those watching your life. God is raising you up to be a living demonstration of His goodness, so that when people ask, "How did you make it?" you will point them to Him. Do not be surprised if, as you approach this next phase, old wounds and past doubts try to resurface. That is the enemy trying to remind you of what you've overcome in order to plant hesitation in your spirit. But you are not who you used to be. You have been transformed in the waiting. The person who started this journey is not the same as the one who is about to step into the promise. This is also a season where you must be careful with your words. What you declare in this time will have power. Speak life over your situation. Prophesy into your future. Declare God's promises over your health, your family, your finances, and your calling. Let your confession align with your faith, not your fear. And I hear the Spirit saying, "Do not look back. What I have for you is ahead, not behind." The road you have traveled has been necessary, but it is not your destination. I am making all things new, and what is coming will make sense of every tear you have cried. Soon, your steps will no longer be in the wilderness. They will be in the land of promise. And when you arrive, you will realize that every delay, every trial, and every moment of uncertainty was a stepping stone, perfectly placed by the hand of God, leading you exactly where you needed to be. There is something sacred about the moments just before fulfillment. It's as if all of heaven leans in, watching to see how you will carry yourself in the final stretch. Will you let impatience trip you, or will you walk with the quiet confidence of one who knows the author of the story has already written the ending? This is where maturity in faith reveals itself. A child might demand the gift early, but a mature son or daughter of God understands that the Father's timing is perfect. You don't want a promise delivered before its appointed hour, because a blessing out of season can feel like a burden. God is not just giving you what you asked for. He is giving it in a way that will last. In these last steps, you will notice a shift in your spirit. There may be an unusual peace, even though circumstances around you remain unsettled. That peace is not denial, it's confirmation. It's the Lord whispering, "Rest now. You've fought long enough. I am taking it from here." Do not underestimate the power of that peace. It is a sign that God has already gone ahead of you to prepare the place. Just as He moved in the heart of Pharaoh to release Israel, just as He caused the hearts of kings to favor His servants, He is working right now in places you cannot see. And while He works behind the scenes, He is also doing something within you, refining your trust. The final stage before the promise is not about proving your strength. It's about proving your surrender. Can you trust Him enough to let go of control? Can you trust Him enough to step forward without a full map, knowing He will guide you step by step? You see, the edge is not a place of uncertainty, it's a place of choice. You can either pull back into safety or step forward into destiny. And sometimes, that step will feel risky because it will require leaving behind what is familiar. But the familiar is often the enemy of the extraordinary. The Lord says, "What I am about to give you will require you to think bigger, believe deeper, and act bolder than before. I am enlarging your territory, and with that enlargement will come new responsibilities. But do not fear. The same grace that carried you through the wilderness will sustain you in the promise." I want you to think about the prayers you've prayed in your lowest moments. Those prayers didn't vanish into the air. They were collected in the very throne room of heaven. And now, the bowls are tipping. The answers are being poured out. Some blessings will arrive subtly, almost unnoticed at first, while others will burst into your life like a flood. But here's something important. When the blessing comes, remember the source. It can be tempting to get so wrapped up in the new season that you forget the one who brought you into it. Make a covenant in your heart right now. When you step into what God has promised, you will remain anchored in prayer, worship, and obedience. The enemy will try to convince you that once you have the promise, you no longer need the same intimacy with God. That is a lie. The promise is not the destination. His presence is. The gift is beautiful, but the giver is everything. You may even feel a gentle warning in your spirit right now. Do not forget the wilderness. Not because it defines you, but because it shaped you. It taught you how to lean on God when you had nothing else. It taught you to recognize His voice in the night. And it taught you that He is faithful, always. The promise ahead will be sweeter because of the road you've traveled. And when you stand in it, looking back, you will finally see the masterpiece He has been weaving all along. The days ahead will carry a holy weight. You may wake up feeling as though the air itself is charged with expectation. That's because heaven is aligning events, conversations, and even delays to work in your favor. Things that seemed like random coincidences will later reveal themselves as divine strategy. Some of you will look back and realize that the job you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the door that slammed shut, all of it was God's way of preserving your place in the story. Had you gotten what you wanted back then, you would have been tied to something that couldn't carry you into this next season. This is a time to travel light. As you stand at the threshold of fulfillment, God is asking you to release anything that cannot go with you. Not just people, but also mindsets, fears, and habits. The promise you are about to walk into is not built to hold the weight of your old wounds. Lay them down at His feet. Some relationships will naturally fade, and that's not rejection, that's redirection. The ones meant to walk with you in the promise will carry a similar spirit of faith, humility, and vision. You won't have to convince them of your calling. They will see it and honor it without competition. You will also feel a fresh wind of creativity in this season. Ideas you thought were long gone will resurface with new clarity. This is the Spirit breathing life into dormant seeds. Don't ignore these promptings. Write them down, pray over them, and take small steps of obedience. The promise is not only about receiving, but also about building. God is entrusting you with territory, and He will show you how to cultivate it. And hear this clearly. Do not despise the small beginnings in the promise. Just because you step into the new doesn't mean it will explode overnight. Sometimes the promise begins like a whisper, small, almost fragile, and it grows as you nurture it. Be faithful with the first fruits, and God will multiply the harvest. There will be moments when the enemy tries to stir up fear that the promise could be taken away. But God's blessings are not fragile, they are fortified. When He places you somewhere, no scheme of man and no plot of the enemy can remove you. The only thing that can hinder your forward movement is your own agreement with fear. That is why, in this season, your agreement matters. Heaven is already in agreement over your life. Now your heart and your words must align. When God says you are ready, speak like it, act like it, walk like it. You are not begging for scraps at the table. You are seated with Christ in heavenly places. The Lord is also reminding you of this. What you are stepping into is not just for personal blessing. It is for kingdom purpose. Your breakthrough will position you to help others step into theirs. Your testimony will dismantle lies the enemy has planted in their minds. Your joy will become a prophetic declaration over their own lives. If God did it for them, He can do it for me. This is why the battle has been so fierce. The enemy has fought you not just because of what you carry, but because of who will be set free when you carry it out. But the battle you've endured has forged a resilience in you that nothing can shake. You are walking into the promise not as the same person who started, but as a warrior who knows the faithfulness of God firsthand. Beloved, the moment is near, and when it comes, you will not have to force it, manipulate it, or strive for it. The promise will meet you exactly where you are, in the fullness of God's timing. And it will fit your life like it was made for you, because it was. When the moment finally arrives, it may feel surreal at first. You might even find yourself asking, is this really happening? That's because your heart has been trained in the long stretch of waiting, and sudden fulfillment can almost feel foreign. But don't shrink back, embrace it. God's goodness sometimes comes so swiftly that it takes time for your spirit to fully grasp it. This is where humility and celebration walk hand in hand. Humility keeps you anchored, remembering that it was God's hand and not your own that brought you here. Celebration, on the other hand, is your way of testifying to His goodness. Don't hide your joy, let it be seen. Your praise is not just personal gratitude. It's prophetic fuel for those still waiting on their own promise. You will notice something remarkable about the promise. It will not only bless you, but it will also redeem parts of your story. God is a restorer by nature. That means the promise often touches the very areas where you once experienced the deepest loss. The desert places become gardens. The ashes become beauty, The pain becomes a platform for testimony. But stepping into the promise is not the end of the journey. It's the start of a new chapter. Every new level brings new lessons. The land of promise still requires tending. Just as Israel had to cultivate the land God gave them, you will be called to steward what you have received. There will be moments where old patterns try to creep back in. The enemy might try to convince you that you're not qualified to hold what you've been given. That's when you must stand on the truth. God does not give blessings by accident. If He entrusted it to you, He knows you can carry it with His strength. This is also a season where you must guard your environment. The promise is sacred, and not everyone should have access to its inner chambers. Some people are meant to witness the fruit from a distance, while others are entrusted to labor with you in the vineyard. Learn the difference, and remember, the same faith it took to get here is the faith it will take to grow here. Do not relax your dependence on God. Keep seeking Him for wisdom, direction, and strength. The enemy would love nothing more than to distract you with the gift and pull you from the giver. Stay close. One of the greatest tests in the promise is remembering why you prayed for it in the first place. It wasn't just to feel secure, successful, or satisfied. It was to fulfill God's assignment for your life. The promise is a tool, not a trophy. Use it to build, bless, and advance the kingdom. You may even find that the promise opens doors for you to minister in ways you never imagined. People will be drawn to the light of God's favor in your life, and in those moments, point them to the source. Don't just tell them what happened, tell them who made it happen. Beloved, the joy of this season will be unlike anything you've known. It will not be fleeting happiness dependent on circumstances. It will be a deep, sustaining joy rooted in the unshakable truth that God keeps His word. And when you wake up in the land you once only saw in dreams, you will know beyond any doubt it was worth every step. When you finally stand in the place God promised, take a moment to look back over the road you've traveled. Not to dwell on the past, but to witness the thread of grace woven through every season. You'll see how each trial taught you endurance, how each delay deepened your faith, and how every unanswered question was eventually met with divine clarity. You will realize that what looked like detours were actually the shortest path to His perfect plan. The seasons where you thought nothing was happening were the very seasons He was working most deeply within you. And now, standing in the fulfillment, you'll see how each piece fits together into something beautiful and whole. But here's the mystery. Even though you've reached this place, the journey is not over. God is infinite, and so is His plan for you. Today's fulfillment will become tomorrow's foundation for even greater works. The promise you hold now is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new one. And this new chapter will not only be about receiving, it will be about giving. You've been entrusted with a testimony, and testimonies are seeds. When you share yours, it plants hope in someone else's heart. And hope is the soil where faith begins to grow. There will be those watching you now, quietly wondering if God could do for them what He did for you. Some may never say it aloud, but your life will become a living sermon. Proof that God's promises are not just ancient words, but present realities. You won't have to convince them with arguments. Your story will be the evidence. In this season, stay anchored in gratitude. Gratitude keeps your heart soft and your spirit alert to the presence of God. Start each day with thanksgiving, not just for the promise itself, but for the one who carried you here. Gratitude will also protect you from pride, reminding you that you did not arrive by your own hand. Guard your intimacy with God above all else. The blessing is precious, but his presence is the treasure. Make it your daily choice to seek him first, to hear his voice above the noise, and to follow his lead even when it takes you into unfamiliar territory. The God who brought you here is the same God who will lead you forward. And finally, let your heart rest. You've spent years climbing, pushing, waiting, and believing. Now is the time to breathe in the faithfulness of God and breathe out every last remnant of fear. Stand tall in the land of promise, knowing that you did not arrive by luck or chance. You were carried here by the everlasting arms of the one who loves you beyond measure. So lift your eyes, beloved. The horizon ahead is filled with even greater things. The God who kept his word this time will keep it again and again. Your life will continue to be a living testimony that his promises are true, his timing is perfect, and his love never fails. This is your season to walk boldly, to live fully, and to shine brightly, for the glory of the one who called you, kept you, and now fulfills what he spoke over your life.